Viewer discretion is advised. This story is about me. My stage name was Callista. I was an escort. The girl who I was working with that night was going by the name Honey. I figure stage names are okay to give since they aren't our real names to begin with. We worked in Florida, and finding girls with the same names is quite easy to do. This took place in September of 2006, in the rural outskirts of Miami near Kendall at about 1 a.m. I believe that's all the backstory you will need. A startling knock at my window awoke me, followed by the car door I had been leaning on suddenly being opened. The heroine had me under a deep trance, and it was more like babysitting when it came to working with me these days. The dome light was on, and the car was filled with fading smoke. Honey handed over a pipe to perk me up. I accepted without hesitation. Honey and I were a good team. I was brunette, curvy, and tan. She was platinum blonde, slim, and had the perfect porcelain skin. We used to brag about how you could get the best of both worlds when you chose to have a 2-girl session with us.
"We're here,"
said Jax, our driver/bodyguard.
"This guy called about an hour ago. Just say you had problems finding the address."
Our agency took calls anywhere from Jupiter to Key Largo. If they were willing to pay the right price, we were willing to drive the distance.
"This should be a good call for you. He booked you both for 2 hours. Be sure to collect $700 before you ask for your tip. Okay, girls?"
Yeah, Jax, we know. Now get out of here before he sees you, gets scared, and doesn't want to do the call no more, said Honey. With that, he started up his car and left around the corner to hide. Honey and I began to look for the apartment. It was dark, quiet, and all you could hear were the frogs, crickets, and the clicking of our heels on the pavement. Once we found the door, we slowed down to listen to what we could hear on the other side of the door. Nothing. Wait, I got me a reverse peephole viewer. A wise $50 investment I purchased online. I held it up to the door's peephole. All I could see was a dimly lit room, a couch, and coffee table, but that was about it. I knocked. No answer, so I knocked again and again. Finally, we called the agency, and they said they would call him. A minute later, we heard an iPhone ringtone. It got about halfway through the tune and was muffled. This was our cue to spring into action. We began to rapidly tap on the door and speak through it in our hottest porn star voices. Psst, psst. Hey, sexy. We're here. Aw, come on, baby. Don't make us wait for too long. And so on. We heard something big fall on the floor, followed by heavy footsteps. Finally, a tall, heavy-set man opened the door. He greeted us with a loud, repulsive burp.
"Bitches took so long I fell asleep and lost my boner,"
he said in a highly slurred, drunken manner. I couldn't help it. I began to laugh. My lack of empathy pissed him off. You could see it in his scowl.
"You bitches are late. Get the fuck out of here."
As he began to shut the door, Honey raised her hands to her breasts as to make an offering. Come on, baby. Let's not get off on the wrong foot. We just drove all the way here just to see you. We're sorry we're late. I just couldn't keep my hands off Callista, so we snuck in a quickie. Can you blame me? I mean, look at her. He then opened the door. The man looked like he had been to a wedding or some formal engagement. His white button-up shirt had stains and spilt wine on it. The apartment had been lit only by candlelight. He offered us a drink. Sure, babe, but can we get the donation out of the way first? I said.
Yeah, I'll give it to you when we're done,
he said. No, that's not how this works. You can't order a pizza to your house, eat it, and pay after. Why would you think this would be any different? I said. Plus, this is way, way better than pizza, baby. Guys who don't want to pay up front are trouble. We had already gathered that about this guy from the start, but Honey and I were used to this, and we were also better at manipulation. If it's games he wants to play, he picked the wrong girls to play with. The agency loved us for this reason. Little ninjas, they called us. Babe, we are wasting time. The sooner we get this over with, the sooner we can get naked. He pulled out his keys and said,
I'm too drunk to drive.
My mouth clenched, and so did my fists. Thankfully, Honey took over the conversation. I'll drive. She pulled him by his necktie. Come on, sexy, let's go. Our agency clearly would never allow this, but we had come too far to leave empty-handed. We could see dollar signs at the end of the proverbial tunnel. Then we could ditch this loser and teach him a lesson for calling us bitches and not having the money ready to begin with. When we arrived at the first ATM we could find, he had already begun to fall back asleep. A few quick slaps to his face and he sat up. We had no idea where we were. We just led him to the ATM. As soon as he punched in his number, Honey pushed his hand out of the way. Before he could detest this action, I distracted him by putting his hand in my bra. Honey withdrew much, much more than we had asked for. My heart began to race a mile a minute. Our faces were on this ATM, and it looked so sketchy, but what's done is done. Too late to turn back now. We led him back to the car, and a warm rush of victory rushed over us. We did it, I thought. Honey turned the radio up almost all the way. Akon's Smack That was playing. I had never heard the song before. It made the moment even more exhilarating. After getting this guy back to the parking lot of his apartment, he was wide awake but mesmerized watching us dance in our seats of the car. We could have easily left him and made a run for it once the car was parked. I wish that's what I could say did happen, but we were feeling generous. We decided to fulfill our end of the deal. Once back at the apartment, we checked the time. Approximately 1 hour had gone by. It was time to get down to business. From here, I'll leave it up to your imagination to figure out what was taking place. About 20 minutes into it, he began to, not be able to keep enough blood flow to keep things going, if you know what I mean. We gave him try after try after try, but our attempts turned out to be for nothing. He simply could not keep up his end of the deal. He was behind me when I finally looked back and said, "Okay, dude, I give up." The next thing I remember was seeing a white light and an enormous force behind it. He grabbed the back of my head and turned my hair into a makeshift handle and clumsily continued to try. Honey had already put back on what undergarments she could find and swiftly began to swipe all of the contents of his dresser drawers onto the floor in an attempt to distract him into letting me go. She snapped his laptop in half. He didn't even look up. He just kept aimlessly pounding away at himself, muttering,
"Let me finish, bitch."
I could literally see my life flashing before my eyes. I thought to myself, Is this how it ends? Honey then frantically began throwing his dishes around the apartment and then opened the front door and began knocking on all the apartment doors. "Help! Help me! My friend is being raped!" This did the trick. He let me go. I grabbed my purse, put on my shoes, scooped up my dress and hers into my arms, and made a break for it. We ran into the night, and bright lights headed towards us. It was Jack's. He later said he could barely hear us from where he was and came to see if we were all right. We sped off into the night. We both had broken glass all over us from Honey going ballistic, and I'm so thankful she did. Once we began to calm down, Honey shouts, "My phone!" What? We both said. Fuck! I forgot my phone! Honey, I will buy you a new one. It's the least I can do for you saving my ass back there, I said. No, we have to go back. Those clients' numbers in there are worth at least $10,000. My dope boy's numbers are in there. We have to go back. Right the fuck now.
Honey, the cops are probably there by now, or at least on the way. It's too risky,
said Jax. Here is $200, Jax. Now turn around, said Honey. Jax looked at me.
Callista?
Fuck it. Let's go back. If the cops are there, we'll tell them what happened, I said. Jax leaned over and pulled out a 9mm.
Crazy bitches. This is stupid,
he said. When we arrived, we see the guy who was our client and some older fat woman, both walking around the parking lot with shotguns. When they saw our car pull up, they took aim at us. Honey immediately jumps out of the car and says, I just want my phone, then we'll leave. The older lady seemed taken back and asked the guy, Is this one of them? The client nods. She began to take aim again, and I jumped out of the car and said, We just want to get her phone and leave. She sees my face, which is swollen and bruised, and says, What really happened here? The man looks down. The old woman told Honey to come and walked with Honey to the apartment. She explains that the man had said that we broke into his apartment and he was the one banging on the doors looking for help. But she knew that was sketchy because he had girls over at his place all the time and knew he was up to no good. When she returned with the phone, we left immediately. It was one of many, many crazy nights that will never leave my memory anytime soon. Some people would say being a call girl is the easy way out. Well, I'm here to say that there is no easy way to do what we do. We risk our lives, our health, our safety, and freedom on a regular basis. But with that said, I will also say with great risk comes great reward. If this weren't true, no one would see the lure in leading a life of crime. I don't want to justify my actions I am about to speak of. It's just what happened, and I have to live with it every day for the rest of my life. Anyway, here's my story. Brittany and I were sitting at my apartment at 11:30 p.m. on a humid Saturday night when we got a call. It was an older-sounding, distinguished gentleman who wanted to see both Brittany and I for a better part of the remaining hours of the night. He was only about 20 minutes away. We knew the area he spoke of to be a wealthy area. That was a good sign. Then we did a Google Earth search of the address, and the address was legit. We took a few more precautions to do a search of who this guy was, and it turned out to all look very promising. So we threw on some makeup and heels and jumped on the highway. On the way, we practiced our lines, went over possible scenarios, and made sure our stories were aligned perfectly. We had gotten so good at what we did, we didn't even need to speak in times of caution. Simple body language or a safe word here and there, and we could con any unsuspecting man into doing whatever we wanted. Before you pass judgment, just know men try to con girls like us all the time. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and Brittany and I watched each other's backs in the unsafe world we had made our normality. When we pulled up to the entrance, we were greeted by security. He wrote down my license plate number and asked for my ID and took it and said that I would receive it back on my way out. The guard told me to park at the small parking lot adjacent to the gate, and Mr. Smith would then be meeting me in front to guide me in. This was not the first time I had received directions such as these, so I complied. Brittany and I lit a cigarette and scrolled through social media awaiting Mr. Smith's arrival. About 10 minutes passed by, and nothing. My phone was now beginning to die. Brittany didn't even have a phone. I was now getting nervous. Maybe he drove by already and didn't like what he saw, said Brittany. No, I don't think so. It's late and no one is on the road. I am sure we would have seen the headlights. I tried my best to reassure her, but I was uncertain myself. Wait, do you hear that? Just then, an F-650 truck came down the road. I nudged Brittany with my elbow, and we both simultaneously giggled to ourselves. Another good sign. A man who likes to live in excess will most likely be generous with his call girls. When we got into the cab, we saw a young man who was built like a weight trainer. We introduced ourselves, and I mentioned he sounded different on the phone. He said that he was just a friend of Mr. Smith giving us a ride. The roads whined and twisted. The houses were not houses but estates, complete with lake boats and vehicles you only see on TV. It was amazing, but at the same time, I had no idea where I was now. We had been driving for so long, I would now depend on the guy to get me back to my car safely. Depending on a stranger is quite foolish, but we had passed the point of no return. Besides, what can go wrong, right? When we arrived, large cast iron gates opened and we parked beside a large fountain with beautiful cars all around it. We took this as a photo op. Just as we began to snap a picture, the guy who drove us grabbed the phone and said,
"There will be no photos taken in or around Mr. Smith's property. Is this understood?"
He said this in a terrifying manner. "Geez, chill out, dude," Brittany snapped back. As we walked around the back, we saw 4 more men sat at a table by the pool playing cards. There was a girl in the pool. Brittany and I looked at each other immediately wondering what the hell the deal was. How many girls did this guy call? Did he expect us to see all these guys too? None of this was discussed on the phone. The girl saw us and said, "Oh, hi, I'm China. Wanna do a shot with me?" She got out of the pool in the nude. Yeah, sure, why not?" we said. "So, do you live here?" I asked curiously. No, babe. I just met Smith a couple days ago at my club, and I've just been hanging out here for a little while. He told me you two were his friends, right?" "No, he just called us here, and we're escorts. Is Smith cool?" asked Brittany. He's a total freak, but he took me shopping and shit, so it's whatever. Come on, he's been waiting," China said as she grabbed us by the hand and skipped into the house. She was totally casual about everything, which helped make us comfortable. The place was huge and dimly lit. When we entered the room, there was an old man sitting in a bathrobe smoking meth. He handed the pipe to China and she took a hit. She looked at us and asked if we brought our own pipes. We said that we didn't want any. She said, "More for me," and skipped to the closet. Smith stood up and pointed to the dresser where 3 stacks of $100 bills were laid out. The old man opened his mouth to say,
"It's yours when I'm finished. Now, find something in your size."
We were guided to a wardrobe that was filled with schoolgirl uniforms and tons of shoes I now know are called saddle shoes. They are shoes that were popular in the 50s apparently. Brittany got dressed immediately. I, on the other hand, hesitated. China was swinging on the banister of the bed, doing a striptease type dance. "Put your hair in pigtails. He loves that," China hollered out. Smith looked at me and said,
"No, you girl. Mess up your hair like you just came off the playground."
Did no one fail to see what was wrong with this picture? This wasn't kinky roleplay. This was borderline pedo type shit. My skin was absolutely crawling. Brittany whispered to me, "Maybe tonight we spare some kid of this shit. Better us than them." A lump was in my throat as she said that. No, maybe I'm just imagining things out of proportion. So China grabs a sheet of plastic and lays it on the floor. The old man lays on top and, with no time wasted, she charges at him and stomps on his manhood. The man cries out and I think I'm about to faint. Again, he cries out and she does it again. Brittany and I take one look at each other, grab all 3 stacks of cash, and begin to get the fuck out of there. As we begin to go for the door, the old man screams,
"I'm not finished."
China goes onto the veranda and yells to the men at the pool, "Hey, we have a problem! Stop them! They stole my money too!" The harder we try to get out, the deeper we go into his house. Finally, we find a room with a patio. We look down and see that there's a wall we can jump onto. Brittany does this with ease. I, on the other hand, fall into the neighbor's yard and my ankle is on fire. We are now separated. I'm terrified. It's pitch black. I have no idea where I am. I'm wearing some school uniform in the middle of the night with no phone, no money, and my partner is still stuck on the other side of the wall. She yells, "Get to the front!" and I follow her command. I'm blindly walking with my arms in front of me, trying to go as fast as I can. Just as I see a small wooden fence, a motion sensor light turns on and I see that I've awakened 2 dogs. As I make a break for the fence, one of the dogs grabs my knee and I'm barely able to get free. The entire property is now lit. I can hear the sound of men running on the other side of the hedges. No time to think, just run. We dodge across the street and before I know it, we are running through backyards. Then we come to a clearing and see the truck that brought us. There was a man with a huge flashlight shining it between houses looking for us. We quickly jumped into a little boat that had a tarp on it. We sat there panting, trying to calm down and think of our next move. Eventually, the sounds of trucks faded and did not return. "How are we getting to your car?" Brittany asked. We can't go to the car. That's probably where they're waiting." After much debate, we decided to raise the tarp and see if the coast was clear. Night had turned to dawn. Everything looked much different. We made a break for it. We continued running through backyards and running between houses until we came to a road where all we had to do was crawl beneath some shrubs and we made it out. We flagged a car down and we were driven to safety. We charged my phone and bandaged my leg. Later on that afternoon, we finally got the nerve to call an Uber and go back for my car. We entered the gate without incident and we went to the nearest gas station to fill up. As we were about to pull out, I noticed a truck parked in front of me. A man jumped out, and before I had time to react, he brought me my ID and read off my city and info on the card to me, handed it to me, and said,
"You have a good day now."
I never moved out of a place so fast in my life. I can't help but wonder just how bad it could have gotten if they ever would have caught us, and how lucky we are that they never did. My girlfriend and I had been busy all day, job after job successfully completed. I always held on to all of the money since my girlfriend tended to be sloppy when it came to responsibility. On this day, my wallet was so full of money I couldn't even fold it shut. Clearly the time to stop at the bank was long overdue, but I was too lazy to make the pit stop and I kept telling myself, I'll do it after the next client. We had received a call in a sketchy part of town, but that didn't bother us so much because it was 3 p.m. and this area wasn't so scary until nightfall. We arrived to a small apartment building. This guy was a typical run-of-the-mill thug that you might imagine. About 6'4", Caucasian, built like a brick wall, covered in gold from his hands to his teeth, a traditional white wife-beater tank top, bagged up drugs, and a scale on the table. You get the picture. The moment we walked in the door, we could tell he was paranoid. He rushed us in, looked out the peephole, then looked through the curtains and asked us if we were alone. Then he tells us to lift our shirts to make sure we aren't wired. His presence was unsettling, to say the least.
"Well, why are there 2 of you? I only wanted 1.
Babe, relax. We come together for safety purposes. You can choose either one of us, or you can have both if you really want to treat yourself." He put his hand on his chin, crossed his arms on his chest, and leaned back a bit as he began to look us up and down, deciding who he liked better.
"Bend over. Let me see what you're working with,"
he says. Only the biggest scumbags put us through this. It's absolutely disgusting when they make us bend over backwards, quite literally, to be picked. Things like this make it so degrading, but it comes with the territory, but I'm getting off topic. I'm elated when he picks my friend. "Have fun," I say sarcastically to my friend. She gives me a half smile and proceeds to follow him after I collect the cash. Before he walks into his bedroom, he tells me,
"Wait inside my bedroom bathroom. I can't have you next to my dope unsupervised."
"Sure, dude," I say with as much attitude as possible. This guy is annoying and I can't wait to leave, but we gotta do what we came here to do. I can hear the usual headboard knocking against the wall rapidly. I can't deny that I felt a definite sense of relief that it wasn't me in there. It was a burden we both shared working together. It helped us get through it, having a bit of comfort knowing we both understood what the other was going through. This isn't the kind of job where you can share the details with just anyone and be sympathized with for obvious reasons. About 15 minutes go by and I hear a loud thud and some sort of crack against the wall. Was it the headboard, I think? It's followed by whimpering. At the sound of this, I immediately grab my phone and purse. I bang on the bathroom door, trying to give the benefit of the doubt that perhaps my perception is wrong and maybe everything is okay. I can hear him speaking, but I can't hear what he's saying. Then I hear footsteps. Well, they definitely ain't fucking no more, I think to myself. I try one more time to be polite and yell through the door. Is everything okay in there? No answer. I crack the door a bit. I see my friend with her back against the wall and knees into her chest, cringing into her shoulder, trying to get as much space between her and this psycho as possible. He is standing over her. He has one arm on the wall blocking her from exiting the bed. He is heaving violently, speaking through gritted teeth, angrily muttering,
"You think you can fuck with me? With me?"
It becomes so painfully clear that something is wrong, so I swing the door open. "What's wrong?" I say in my most stern voice possible.
"This bitch is broken.
What does that mean?
She don't want to fuck no more. Give me my motherfucking money back. Right now,"
he says as he grabs her purse and throws the contents of makeup, condoms, and other nonsense onto the floor. As he does this, I jump on my phone, set it to silent, and put an alarm set for 1 minute from then. I had become so good at doing this in times of need, it was like second nature. Once the purse is just an empty leather shell of what it once was, he clenches it in his fist and looks dead at me like I had just kicked his dog. No, he looked at me like I owed him money. "What happened?" I asked in my most calm voice. My friend whimpers. He's too rough. He ripped me open." I tell him, "Okay, so let me try." By this point, I just want to save my friend, even if it means sacrificing my safety. I don't know what I was thinking. Calling the police isn't an option for girls like us. It isn't an option for anyone leading a high-risk lifestyle. It doesn't matter anyway. He isn't hearing anything I'm saying. He can't be reasoned with. He then charges at me and snatches my purse and grabs all my money. Not just his share, but everything from the entire day that both she and I had made. In my gravest voice I could muster, I fight back with, "Oh, that's cute. You think that's still your money? You think you're taking it back from us? That money belongs to our boss." Just then, my alarm goes off. I pretend to answer it. "Uh-huh. Yeah, he just took it." I rattle off a description of this guy. His tattoos, his address, apartment number, the car parked in front of the door. I pretend to laugh and say, "Oh yeah, there's only one guy here." "Oh, you guys are at the McDonald's? Oh shit, you guys are mad close." I mention that my friend is hurt and probably can't bring in any more money for the rest of the day. I say, "I'm so sorry, but this guy roughed her up real bad." Just then, this guy flings the money into the air, scattering it all over the floor. I tell my friend to pick it the fuck up and go to the car, now. I attend to my phone call. "Never mind, I got it back. Don't come. We'll be right there." Once back in the car, my friend asks, Who was on the phone?" I say no one. That call wasn't real. We just got really, really lucky.